Welcome to the live walkthrough of Scratch, VCU's AI-powered chat tool for chronic urticaria. My name is Adiam, and I will be the host for today's session. I'm also joined by my colleague, Kristen Willard, who you'll be hearing from shortly. Just to tell you a bit about who we are, this webinar is being hosted by VCU, and that is the only nonprofit dedicated to chronic urticaria or chronic hives in the United States. Chronic hives is an ongoing skin condition marked by reoccurring itchy welts, and it can seriously disrupt an individual's quality of life. CU impacts about 1% of the US population, so this makes VCU a unique, one of a kind, and needed organization. We also serve the broader CU community through our main pillars of awareness, education, advocacy, research, and community. Just so you all are aware of what we have planned for you these next 30 minutes. You'll also be getting a recording of this session, and that's also for people who are catching this on the replay. So we'll start with introduction so that you know who's behind the team. And as host, I'll be asking Kristen a couple of questions about Scratch, and then we'll dive right into the demo. Then we'll take a few moments to react to what we saw, and then we will have time for any questions. So I encourage you to leave any comments or reactions or questions throughout the demo, and I'll make sure to get that in front of Kristen before the end of the session. Kristen, the floor is yours if you would like to say a few words about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ariam. We are thrilled to be here today with you. I'll just introduce myself quickly so we don't take up too much time. I'm Kristen Willard. I'm the executive director at WeCU, and we've been in existence for about a year and a half now. I am also a patient with chronic urticaria that is very thankfully in remission, and that is something that I wish for everyone. I'm also vice president of education at GAP, and that's the Global Allergy and Airways Patient Platform. And that's a global network of organizations like ours. And WeCU is a member of GAP. Thanks, Anya.
Thanks, Kristen. So again, I'm Aria Malula. I'm WeCU's Director of Communications and Engagement. And my role at the organization is to make sure that patients feel supported, connected, and knowledgeable about urticaria. Ultimately, this work wouldn't be possible without the support of people such as yourself, and not only patients, but I also want to give a nod to the people in our lives, so caregivers, advocates, our healthcare providers and teams, as well as allies. So thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your continued interest and support. So Kristen, I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you that will ground our viewers in what Scratch is able to do. So my first question is, why was Scratch created, and what is the need that WeCU is trying to meet with this tool?
I think it's such a good question. You know, any of us who has spent, and that I think is everyone in the world, any of us who have spent time on the internet know that there is some reliable information and there's other information that is just made up or unhelpful. And I think when it comes to having a chronic illness, there is so much a need for information. You know, when you're first diagnosed, you're almost frantic to get that information. I remember that feeling quite vividly. And not just me, my friends and family, my coworkers, and I didn't know where to get it. You know, at the first time I ever had hives, we didn't even have an internet. I think I first learned what it was from an urgent care nurse. Now we have at our fingertips, you know, thousands of people and thousands of pages and a lot of social media forums that do not always have the correct information. And we wanted to give people something that was factual, evidence-based, and that came from a trusted source.
Oh, that's wonderful. And speaking of the internet and
Mhm.
all the information that we're inundated with online, why should someone use Scratch as opposed to just Googling the condition and learning more about what it is through Google or through the internet?
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of other trusted sources too. So if you have a physician's office that they have information, if there are other things that they point you to on the internet, I think that can be very, very helpful to things like treatment guidelines or established institutions, medical institutions that have information. But I think it's important to stay away from Googling because you can get unreliable information, inaccurate information, and you can also scare yourself. I don't know how many people on this call have done a Google search about something to do with an illness at 11 p.m. when you cannot get in touch with anyone else. But I surely have done that. And you really can become overwhelmed, and there's no context for the information you're getting. We wanted people to have reliable information that they can actually discuss with their healthcare provider when they see them next. And the library for Scratch, I think this is important, is not the general internet. So if you go to some of the AI tools we have now globally, they pull from a wide variety of, everything that's available on the internet. Scratch's brain was actually created by our organization. So his brain is only the content that we give him. And that's roughly 200 peer-reviewed articles and information that our medical group has vetted to make sure that it's accurate.
Oh, that's very important to know. Thanks for that context. And I have one more question before we dive into the demo. And I think it's a question that is worth asking. In your opinion, what do you think Scratch does exceptionally well?
I love this question too. So I think that Scratch is very good at supporting you as an individual with factual information, right? He's very good at giving tips. He's very good at finding information for you, excuse me. He's very good at making sure that you can understand what the latest guidelines look like. I would say all of these things, and I'll show you what some of those questions look like. I think what he's not designed for is to answer questions about your medication or what you should do, that type of thing. And more general information is the best that he can do, and that's what he's perfect at. But we want you to use this information to be better equipped to have conversations with your doctor, not to use it instead of a doctor.
Yeah, that's really important. We are not promoting Scratch as a doctor, as a
Right.
physician. So yeah, that's really helpful to know.
Yeah.
At this point, Kristen, I'm really curious to see what types of questions we could ask Scratch. So I'll let you take it away from here.
I appreciate it. This is so much fun. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and pull up Scratch to show you. Uh, So how about that? Are you able just to see my browser?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. Okay, so to get to Scratch, you need to get to our website. The first thing you need to do, excuse me, is go to, you can see it here, livingwithcu.org. Living with CU, chronic urticaria, livingwithcu.org. When you go to our website, I've actually blown this up a little bit. So it's a little bigger so that you'll be able to see the chat easier. You will look in the lower right-hand corner and you will see an image of an illustration of a mast cell. Right here where it says click to chat, that's what you want to do. So we're going to click on him and he's going to come up here and you can scroll always to see additional information because some of his answers will be quite long because we want him to be thorough. But this is how you access him via the home page. So let's start with something really straightforward. You can either click on these types of questions. You can see that when I highlight them with my cursor, or you can type. Um, something in the Ask Me Anything box. So in this case, what I did is I clicked on a predetermined question, and you'll often see those. And then when you see the moving three dots, he's thinking. And so here we go. Here is his answer. He tries to answer in simple ways so that you can understand, because we are not doctors, right? Most patients are not doctors. We need language that can help us to make these concepts accessible. And so this is exactly what he's done. Tells you about hives and tell you how many people are impacted and what they look like. Now, he's asking me here, would you like to learn about what causes them or how they're treated? I'm going to ask him something else, but you can, of course, just ask him anything you'd like. I want to know, how are hives diagnosed? The other thing I'll tell you is, do not worry about perfect spelling or always using a question mark or things like that. He has read plenty of my ineligible or illegible, excuse me, questions. So don't worry too bad about your typing. Now I ask him, how are hives diagnosed? And so again, these are the three dots that I was talking about. He will think for a few seconds, then he's going to give us a response. So here he walks through. Let me scroll for you. Your diagnosis will come from a physical exam. For chronic hives, you might have other blood work done, etc. Now, one of the things that you could do here, if you wanted to, was ask for a clarification. So, say I'm interested in knowing what some of these tests are. So, if I say here, what is a complete blood count? What he'll do is give me more information on that so we can better understand what these tests are. He can do it for any of the tests that he mentions or the concepts that he mentions so that he can simplify it. And here he tells you in simpler terms exactly what that is. So I really like to use that feature. Tell me more about this specific thing or define this specific thing. I find that very helpful. Now I'm going to move into some more factual, what I would call clinical questions. And let's see, shut that. And let's see, how about what is a flare up? So we know sometimes those of us with hives get extra bad flare ups. Let's see what he tells us about that. Okay. What he's doing then is to give us more information, defining it for us, what we can expect to experience during a flare up in general, and what to do next. Tells us about tracking, etc., which I think is important. And RDM knows this. We have a brand new resource on our website that can help you to track your symptoms. If you go down on our Find Information page, you will see that we have two cards in Spanish and English that you can actually print. It helps to track your symptoms, think about questions to ask your doctor, and then take it with you when you go. Very helpful. I really wish I had had that, Ariam, whenever I was in the throw of things. Let me ask it a new question. What are treatments for chronic hives? See you. He'll think a minute and then he'll give me more information. And what I'm going to do after he gives us this information is I'm going to ask him another clarifying question. So I want you to know, when I talk about this coming from an evidence base, this information is actually pulled from the most recent guidelines that are available, the most recent international guidelines. Those were published 6 months ago, maybe. And we make sure, even though Scratch was launched before that, that the most updated information is added to Scratch. So he is always up to date on what's happening. So you can see here antihistamines, the different add-on treatments that are available, biologics. There's a new BTKI inhibitor. And you can read about sort of what has been used and why it is no longer, and ask more clarifying questions if you want. So I'm going to ask it another question and show you how I ask more clarifying questions too. He talked about antihistamines. Let's ask him, what is an antihistamine made of? I do not know the answer to this. Do you, Ariam? This I do not
I
know.
do
Let's see.
not. I do
So
not.
he
So we're both learning.
I know, I love that. That's why we're all here. So he's telling us that these are medicines made of chemical compounds, etc. They have different chemical structures. But again, you'll see he's trying to use language that makes it easier for us to understand. Something I would do here is to give me, please give me a a, oops, let's see, explanation of what histamines are. You can see that he will accept my typing, my errors. So what he does then is tells you in simpler terms when you ask him exactly what these chemicals are, and that's very helpful. Sometimes he will then ask you other questions at the bottom, and I think that's important. I would take the time when you first use him to walk through some of those questions that he offers you. Yes, tell me about what triggers hives, because I think that's where a lot of our information is housed. So those were factual clinical questions. I'm going to go to mental and emotional health next. So this is something that does not get talked about a lot, but many of us with chronic hives or hives in general actually often have experiences of anxiety and depression too. And that is something that should be talked about more. And that's actually common with many chronic conditions. And so here he tells you, yes, it's quite common. Why does it happen? He talks more about that. And I like to that we built him to be reassuring and supportive of people so that they know, say you're a healthcare provider and you're providing this link to patients to use, or if you are someone who's impacted yourself, you get that reassurance that you are not alone. When you are at home with a chronic illness that is so debilitating and so miserable, you can feel like you're the only person on the planet who is affected by it and has these other conditions like anxiety, mood disturbance that are so difficult. You are most definitely not alone, and I love that he tells us that. Okay, is it okay if I keep going, Artyom?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to use an example of a lifestyle question. So if I tell him, you can tell him more. You don't have to ask simple questions. Like if I say, I have chronic urticaria, should I change my diet?
That's a really good question to ask, by the way, because I see it come up a lot on the interwebs.
Yeah, I
What do you
agree.
scratch that?
Because I think so few people know about what chronic urticaria really is that even our doctors will say, oh, this is probably an allergy. Why don't you cut out this in your diet or in your environment? And that is not, in the long run, if you have chronic urticaria, going to be the most helpful thing for you. So information here about what there's evidence for, what there is evidence against, and also encouraging you to contact your doctor or allergist and learn about more triggers. And the reason we want to talk about triggers is because even though some of these lifestyle factors may not cause your chronic urticaria, they surely can make it worse. So for me, one of the things that made it worse was caffeine and hot showers. I consider hot showers to be one of the great joys in life, truly. And they would make my hive so terrible that they were really unbearable, that I couldn't do anything else. So when we talk about triggers, that's really important to manage, but know that that isn't the cause of your chronic urticaria. Okay. Remember I said earlier, I'll do a few more, and then I promise to let Artyom speak. I'm just excited to show you. He's very good at giving tips too. So one of the things I asked him is, how can I remember, we'll just leave it, to take my antihistamines? Say that that's a question I ask. He's very good at giving you tips on things. So what he's saying here is There's a few different things that he will tell you. Set phone reminders. I love this one. Link it to a habit, like your a meal you know you aren't going to skip. Use a pill organizer, put it somewhere visible, ask someone to remind you. Consistency is key. Now, if you wanted more of these, you could ask him for additional tips and he would produce more tips for you. I love that part too. We kept the answer short on purpose because people are very busy. You can always ask him for more and he will provide that to you. Let me ask another tips question. What questions are helpful for me to ask my doctor? This one is one of the questions I really wish I had known the answer to when I was diagnosed. And so here he gives you a few options, ideas, things to write down and to take with you. And also remember on our website at livingwithcu.org, under Find Information, you can find the My CU Visit card and My CU Visit flyer that will contain questions like these. Okay, one more. Because anyone who knows me knows I could do this all day. What medication cost resources are available? So he can help you to get to resources, our organization, other organizations, things like if you're having difficulty affording your medications. I should say that this information will all be US based because he was built for a US audience. But the other information is helpful. So, for example, if you cannot afford your medication, drug manufacturer programs, these nonprofit assistance programs, and there are the possibility of generic alternatives to ask about. And then for the major medications, the prescription medications, we've also listed the direct URL to go to their patient support programs, because that's really important for people to have access to. And not everyone even knows that these patient support programs exist. Now, for those of you outside the United States, I think it's good for you to know the general information, even though the specific things like links to the support programs may not be appropriate for you because they're US based. So, Artyom, I could truly look through these all day, but let me turn it back to you to hear your impressions and questions, and let's discuss further.
Thank you, Kristen. So that demo just showed us the range of questions that Scratch can answer, and the depth of responses that he can give. So I was just taking a couple of notes, and just to play back some of what I saw. There were questions related to clinical information, related to facts, about chronic urticaria, as well as questions pertaining to mental and emotional health, because we know that's a very real component with any chronic condition,
Yes.
lifestyle questions, and even questions around newer treatments, and medication costs. And I also heard you say that Scratch was built for a US audience, though folks outside of the US can certainly make use of this resource as well. And Scratch also answers questions using information or bullet points, which I liked. I'm a lover of lists, so
Me too.
so seeing that is really helpful. Yeah, super helpful. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, if anyone on the call has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I think we got one question that came in privately, actually, Kristen.
Yes.
It's a privacy related question, and
Mhm.
um, does Scratch save my chats? And I think a good related question to that is, if I use Scratch, step away from the browser and then come back at a later time or at a different day or week, will I see the conversation that we had last time?
Yes. So that's a good question. When you can actually read the details of our privacy policy, this is really important to us. If you want to see all the details, you can go to livingwithcu.org. Go the whole way to the bottom of the screen, and there is our privacy policy is linked in the footer of our website. I think that's important. But I think it's also important to tell you what we do with the information. So we only save your chat information, not your IP address, nothing like that that can identify you, just the kinds of questions you're asking. We save that information for 40 days and then it is completely erased. The reason we save it is because we then look at themes or trends in the responding. It's very important to us to understand what is important to the community. So what we do then is analyze all of those questions to see what people are asking about, the frequency they're asking questions, or you are asking questions. We can then develop our initiatives and our education and our advocacy efforts, our research based upon you, the community. And I think that's really important. The system will time out. So when I return to it, it usually, if I leave it, say, and have to walk the dog, because that happens quite often, I will then come back and it will say, okay, you haven't been here for a while. So it will time out. The system will time out for you. So if you close your browser, go away and come back, you will come back and start a new chat. Oh, thank you for putting that there.
Yeah, that's really helpful to know. Um, and just want to call out some of the responses that we're getting in the chat as well.
Oh,
Um,
good.
so someone by the name of Brenda, hello Brenda, said that this has been amazing. And then we
Oh,
also had
good.
a hello from someone named Lamine.
Oh,
Really
great.
apologize if I mispronounced your name, but hello to you all. Um, we love hearing from individuals. We love hearing from our community, and we also read all of our messages and emails. So if you would like to reach out to us, you can contact us at info@livingwithcu.org. I'll put that in the chat in a second. Another question that I think is worth stating is, how do you make sure Scratch gives accurate answers for people who are concerned about accuracy when using a tool like Scratch?
I think that's really important. So in addition to making sure that it had a brain that we developed, that the medical team really made sure it was based in the literature, as we call it, or in the evidence, in research that had been reviewed by other experts, we also test him all the time. So we are working in him all the time to make sure that his answers are accurate, and training him if we find any issues. So if we identify something that is out of date, we will find something to make sure that it is back and current, right? Anything new, like I said, with the guidelines that came in at the end of last year, early this year, we'll make sure that he has in his, and I like to call it his brain. So we are always monitoring this tool because we never want anyone to be misinformed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I hope that puts, a lot of curiosities around privacy and around
Yeah.
accuracy at ease. But again, we encourage you to reach out to us. I just put our email address in the chat. And we're also wrapping up. That this was a lovely session, Kristen. I do want to take a moment just to thank you for all that you brought to this conversation and all that you do for the CU community every day. Um, Definitely want to thank everyone who is live on the call, people who have been commenting, folks watching on the replay. I also want to give a big thank you to our partner Novartis, who supported the creation of Scratch, and just to say one other thing about how we would love for you to stay connected with us. So we see you, as you know, as a growing nonprofit, and so we're on a lot of the social media platforms that you are all on. So that includes Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Reddit, and I will, as you get this recording, I'll also make sure that you have links to all of our social channels so you can stay plugged in and follow us there. And of course, if you'd like to get in touch with us privately, you can do that anytime. Kristen, did you have any parting words for this session?
Oh, I just want to say thank you to you and to everyone who has joined us. We absolutely love being part of this community, learning from everyone every day. We thank you all for your support, and we look forward to hearing your reactions to Scratch. So let us know how it goes.